Your neighbor spent $4,000 on their yard this year. You're about to do it better for less than the price of a pizza night. I know that sounds like something you'd hear right before a sales pitch, but stick with me for a second. A few months ago I walked past a yard that looked like it belonged on the cover of a home magazine. Thick green grass, sharp lines, plants that looked like they were placed by hand one at a time. I genuinely thought a landscaping crew had been through there. Turns out the owner did almost all of it herself on weekends, with a budget most people spend on a single dinner out. That stuck with me because it proved something a lot of people don't want to believe. Looking expensive and being expensive are two completely different things. By the end of this video you're going to know exactly which cheap tricks make a yard look like real money was spent on it, and just as important, which expensive habits are quietly wasting your money without you even noticing. Number 7 on this list is the one almost nobody talks about, and it's the one that fools people every single time. Skip it, and the rest of your yard can look unfinished no matter how much effort you put into everything else. So don't wander off early. Stay with me because this one might change how you look at your own yard by the time you walk outside today. Hey, welcome back to Gentle Greens, the channel built for people who want a yard that turns heads without draining a bank account. If this is your first time landing here, pull up a chair and get comfortable, because every week we prove that a beautiful outdoor space doesn't require a big budget, just a smarter plan and a little know-how. And if you've been here before, welcome back. You already know how good it feels to step outside your front door and actually love what you see, instead of quietly hoping the neighbors don't look too closely. That feeling is exactly what we chase on this channel, and today we're going after it again. This video is a direct follow-up to our last list, where we covered 10 cheap ways to upgrade your yard. If you haven't seen that one yet, it's worth a watch after this because today we're picking up right where it left off. 10 more tricks, but these aren't the tips you've already heard 100 times on every gardening channel out there. These are the small, almost sneaky adjustments that quietly change how expensive your whole yard feels, without you spending anywhere close to what it looks like you spent. Before we dive in, I want to ask one small favor. If you've gotten any value out of these videos, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell next to it. We post fresh, budget-friendly garden tips regularly, and the bell just means you won't miss the ones still coming. It costs nothing on your end, but it helps this channel keep growing so we can keep making free content like this for as long as possible. Alright, that's enough talking about the channel. Let's get your yard looking like money was no object, starting with tip number 1. Tip 1. Pick one bold color and repeat it. Here's something most people never realize about yards that look pricey. It's rarely about the number of plants or even the quality of them. It's about restraint. A yard with 5 or 6 different flower colors scattered randomly reads as cluttered, even when every single plant in it is genuinely nice on its own. Your brain isn't built to appreciate chaos, even pretty chaos. Yards that look expensive almost always repeat one strong color again and again throughout the space. Maybe it's a deep purple that shows up in 3 different flower beds. Maybe it's a fiery red that appears near the front door, along the walkway, and again by the mailbox. That repetition is what your eye reads as intentional design. Randomness, on the other hand, reads as neglect, even if that's not fair. Here's the part that makes this genuinely cheap. You don't need new plants to pull this off. Walk around your yard and look at what you already have. Chances are you can group your existing plants by color instead of buying anything new, simply by moving a few pots or transplanting a few flowers from one bed to another. And if you are buying something new, pick one shade and commit to it in at least 3 separate spots. That's the whole trick. One color, repeated with a little discipline, does more for how expensive a yard looks than a truckload of mismatched plants ever will. Tip 2. Edge everything like your life depends on it. I want you to picture 2 yards side by side. One has slightly overgrown grass but perfectly crisp, clean lines where the lawn meets the flower beds and walkway. The other has beautifully manicured grass, but the edges are fuzzy and blend into everything around them. 9 times out of 10, people will say the first yard looks more expensive, even though the grass itself is worse. That's because edging acts like a frame around a picture. Without it, even a great picture looks unfinished. With it, even an average picture looks intentional and cared for. You don't need fancy equipment for this. A simple spade works perfectly fine. Just cut a clean shallow line wherever your lawn meets a flower bed, a walkway, or a driveway. It takes maybe 20 to 30 minutes for an average yard. and it costs absolutely nothing but a bit of effort. But that clean line tricks the eye into thinking a professional landscaper was just there, doing exactly the kind of detail work people pay good money for. A quick tip within this tip. Do this once every couple of weeks rather than letting it grow out completely before you fix it again. Maintaining a clean edge is far less work than restoring one that's been neglected for months. Tip 3. Use odd numbers when grouping plants. This next one sounds almost too simple to matter, but it's something professional designers, florists, and even nurseries know well and rarely explain to regular customers. Plants in pots grouped in odd numbers, so groups of 3, 5, or 7, look natural and intentional to the human eye. Even numbers, on the other hand, tend to look accidental, almost like leftovers that just ended up next to each other. Think about the last time you saw a beautifully styled event or a high-end store display. Chances are, whatever decorative pieces were grouped together came in 3s, not 2s or 4s. That's not a coincidence. It's a design principle that's been used for decades because it simply works on how our brains process visual balance. So the next time you're arranging potted plants on your porch, or placing flowers along a pathway, resist the urge to buy a matching pair. Go for 3 instead. If you already own an even number of something, don't panic. Just add or remove one, or split them into 2 separate groupings of 3 and 1, positioned apart from each other. It costs nothing extra, and it might be the single easiest visual upgrade on this entire list. Tip 4. Mulch isn't decoration, it's disguise. Most people think mulch exists purely to keep weeds down and retain a bit of moisture in the soil. That's true, but it's missing the bigger picture. The real power of mulch is disguise. Bare soil, uneven dirt patches, and rough-looking ground all but disappear the moment you lay down a fresh, dark layer of mulch over them. Here's the part that most videos skip over. You do not need to mulch your entire yard for this trick to work. In fact, doing that can get expensive fast and honestly isn't necessary. Instead, focus your mulch where people's eyes actually land first. That's usually the beds closest to your house, the area right along your front walkway, and any spot visible from the street or your front door. Those high visibility zones are where the investment matters most. The back corners of your yard that nobody really looks at closely can wait, or can be handled with a cheaper filler material. This targeted approach means you spend a fraction of what a full yard mulch job would cost, while still getting almost all of the visual benefit, because you're spending your money exactly where eyes actually go. Tip 5. Wash your hardscape. Out of everything on this list, this might be the cheapest trick you'll ever use, and it's shockingly underused. Take a hose or a pressure washer if you happen to have access to one, and simply clean your driveway, your front walkway, and your patio if you have one. Years of built-up dirt, algae, and grime make even brand new concrete look old, dingy, and neglected. It's one of those things you stop noticing because it happens so gradually day by day that your eyes just adjust to it. But a freshly cleaned surface photographs and looks like it was installed within the last month, even if it's actually a decade old. This costs practically nothing beyond a bit of water, and maybe a Saturday afternoon. If you don't own a pressure washer, plenty of hardware stores rent them out for a few dollars an hour. And honestly, even a regular garden hose with a strong nozzle attachment and a stiff bristle broom will get you most of the way there. Pay close attention to the areas right near your front door and along your main walkway, since those are the surfaces guests and passersby actually notice first. Alright, quick pause before we keep rolling. If this list is already sparking a few ideas for your own yard, drop a comment down below and tell me which tip you're planning to try first. It genuinely helps me understand what to cover more of in future videos. And I read through every single comment. And while you're down there, go ahead and tap that like button. Takes about 2 seconds, but it tells me this content is actually useful, and it helps push this video out to more people who might need it too. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great moment to do it because tip number 7, the one I teased at the very start of this video, is coming up next, and it's the one most people never even think to try. Let's keep going. Tip 6. Trim your lawn's edges along structures. Overgrown grass creeping up against your fence, wrapping around your mailbox post, or brushing against the base of your house makes the entire yard look unkempt, even when the lawn itself is technically healthy and green. It's one of those small details that people notice subconsciously without ever pinpointing exactly why something feels off. A simple pass with a string trimmer along every hard surface, your fence line, your foundation, any posts or structures, instantly sharpens the entire look of your yard. Think of it like trimming a beard. The overall length barely matters if the edges and lines aren't clean and defined. The same logic applies here. You could have the healthiest, greenest grass on the block, but if it's shaggy where it meets your structures, the whole yard reads as slightly neglected. This takes maybe 15 minutes with a basic string trimmer. And if you don't own one, even careful hand shears will get the job done for a smaller yard. Do this alongside your edging from tip 2, and you'll notice the entire property suddenly feels tighter and more deliberate. Tip 7. Add height with something vertical. Here it is, the one I promised at the start. Flat yards look plain no matter how nice the plants scattered across them are. What actually separates a yard that looks expensive from one that looks average is often something incredibly simple: height. A single tall plant, a decorative obelisk trellis, or even something as basic as a leaning ladder planter gives the eye somewhere to travel upward instead of staying flat and static across the ground. Most yards are almost entirely horizontal: grass, low shrubs, maybe a flower bed. And that flatness is exactly why they can feel underwhelming despite genuine effort being put in. Here's the uncommon part, though. You don't need a fancy, expensive structure to pull this off. A few bamboo stakes tied together at the top in a simple teepee shape, with a climbing vine planted at the base, does virtually the same visual job as something you'd pay $200 or more for at a garden center. Sweet peas, morning glories, or even a fast-growing bean vine will happily climb it within weeks. Place this vertical element somewhere it'll actually be seen, near your entrance, along a walkway, or as a focal point in an otherwise flat flower bed. This one small addition can genuinely transform how designed your yard feels. And it's the detail that separates a yard people compliment from a yard people just glance at. Tip 8. Match your pots, not your plants. If your outdoor pots are all different shapes, sizes, materials, and colors, your yard can end up looking like a garage sale, even if every individual plant inside them is thriving and beautiful. It's a detail people often overlook because they're so focused on the plants themselves. But here's the trick. You don't need to match the plants. You need to match the pots. Even with a completely random mix of plant types, unifying just the containers instantly makes the whole space feel curated and intentional, rather than accidental. The cheapest way to do this is with a can of spray paint made for outdoor use. Grab whatever mismatched pot collection you already have sitting around, and in a single afternoon, you can turn them into a matching set. Terracotta, plastic, ceramic-looking plastic, it doesn't matter what they're made of once they share the same color. This is genuinely one of the cheapest transformations on this entire list, and it's also one of the most visually powerful, because it fixes the one detail your eye picks up on almost instantly without you consciously realizing why. Tip 9. Light it like a movie set. Simple solar lights lining a walkway are fine, and plenty of people already use them. But the trick that actual landscape professionals rely on is something called uplighting, and it's rarely talked about outside the industry. Uplighting means placing a small light source at the base of a tree, shrub, or feature plant and pointing it upward instead of downward. This creates dramatic shadows across the leaves and branches, and it makes even a fairly modest, ordinary plant look like a genuine feature piece once the sun goes down. Solar uplights have gotten a lot more affordable over the last few years, and you honestly only need 2 or 3 placed thoughtfully to completely transform how your yard feels at night. Choose your most attractive tree or your tallest shrub. The one from tip 7 works perfectly here too, and place a light directly at its base facing upward. The shadow pattern it throws across your house or fence adds a level of drama that most people assume costs a small fortune to achieve, when in reality it's one of the more affordable upgrades on this entire list. Tip 10. Keep one surface perfectly clear. This last one might sound strange at first, so stay with me. Expensive-looking spaces, whether that's yards, homes, or even hotel lobbies, almost always have one area that's completely empty and clean. A clear patch of open lawn, an uncluttered corner of a patio, a walkway with absolutely nothing sitting on it. That empty space gives the eye somewhere to rest. It's a concept designers call negative space, and it matters just as much outdoors as it does indoors. Cluttering every single inch of your yard with pots, ornaments, and decorations, even genuinely nice ones, can actually make the whole space feel busier and cheaper rather than richer. So before you fill that last empty corner with another planter or another garden ornament, pause. Consider leaving it exactly as it is. An intentional empty space reads as confidence and restraint, not as something unfinished or neglected. It's often the difference between a yard that feels curated and one that feels like it's trying too hard. And that's it, 10 more genuinely cheap ways to make your yard look expensive without spending anywhere close to what it looks like you did. If you tried any of the tips from our previous video, I'd love to know how it turned out, so drop it in the comments below. I read through every single one, and it genuinely shapes what we cover next. If this video helped you even a little, consider sharing it with someone who's always complaining about their yard, but refuses to spend real money fixing it. Sometimes the right information matters more than the size of the budget behind it. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you've already been part of this community, thank you for sticking around and continuing to show up week after week. Genuinely means a lot. Keep it green, keep it cheap, and I'll catch you in the next one.